The story begins with the introduction of the main character. His name is Zhang Hao. He is an ordinary office worker who saw thousands of the same ordinary people every day. On the same simple and ordinary day he was coming home. He hated his job and promised himself to change jobs. Suddenly on his way home he saw a red moon, and the next day he woke up in pink pajamas. He was shocked by this. He did not understand what happened in the world he was in. The men raise the children, and the women are the head of the family. Modern men rely on women, who, in turn, have limitless power to move bricks. Men here, compared to women, are physically weak and cowardly. Men are delicate flowers, and women are Barbie King Kongs. The men were very weak and couldn't open the bottle. They turned to the girls for help. This place Zhang Hao called the world of rich mamas. But is it really me? No. Look everyone, I'm a real man. I swear to rise up and be a real man in this world. He suddenly had a half-sister goddess who was ready to cover him with her breasts. How, come here, and also a pure and innocent flowered well, and the oppressive and overbearing director. Why didn't you call me? One thing's for sure, in this world, you can actively live off woman. How didn't understand how this could have happened. Why did he wake up in his pink pajamas? Maybe it was someone's joke. He began to remember what could have gone wrong, because he was coming home from work, but he saw a red moon, and lo and behold, he had already woken up as a girl, and everything around him had changed. Hao's dad came into the room and said, "Get up, didn't you want to go shopping with Lun Moon today?" "I'll go shopping. Get ready for dinner for Auntie Zhang. Learn proper grooming from Lun Lun. Hurry up and get dressed well." Hao didn't understand. Who is this, and where is he? Chen is who? Chen is my father's last name? Who is Lun Lun? I'm a grown guy, but I have to dress up and go somewhere? Maybe I'm crazy. At that moment his phone rang. Hao answered and heard Hao open the door. Hao heard a familiar voice. It would be Brother Lun with a tattoo on his arm, fair and brave, an older brother I admire, the toughest, a real beast. "Brother Lun, wait a minute, I'm on my way." There was a boy standing at the door, and he said, "Really, what took you so long? Making a handsome man like me wait so long at the door? What if they started harassing me?" It was that Brother Moon. Hao did not recognize him. Lun came up to Uncle. Hao, just look how handsome Lun is. You should learn from him." Hao was puzzled. What's going on? Married? Skincare? Where the hell am I in this world? The gender roles of men and women have swapped. Women have become emperors and celebrities. Men are responsible for the home, and women are the backbone of the family. Men are protected by women, who in turn have limitless power. Men here, compared to women, are physically weak and cowardly. Men are responsible for raising children, and women do all the physical work. Moreover, the significant role of women has led to a break in the balance between the ratio of men and women. So men are a treasure. Wow, look at those two. So beautiful. Lun said to Hao, "First let's go buy a mask, then let's go for a manicure." Someone used my mask again. We should also buy a gas can, because there are a lot of female maniacs lately. Hao thought the world had gone crazy. Hao grabbed Lun by the arm and said, "I will give you back your manhood." They went into a tattoo shop and said, "Get me a dragon tattoo all over my back, and him too." Lun was afraid and said, "Wait, are you crazy?" Hao replied, "I'm not crazy. Now I'll show you what a real man is." There were beautiful girls sitting in the tattoo parlor. They told him that it's not easy for guys to get tattoos, and it's not for sissies. Hao took off his t-shirt and said, "You all behold, here is a real man." The girls were shocked by his behavior. He said he wanted a dragon and a white tiger all over his back, and a white tiger. The girls were delighted and scattered money to him, and asked him to continue. After that Hao returned home completely tired. There he was met by his half-sister Zhang Qian. Hao was shocked, and thought he had the wrong door. He said, Hao, come back." After which he did go home and sat down at the table. He didn't remember what was going on. Who were these people? Dad told him. Didn't he tell him that Aunt Yan and Zhang Qianqin were coming to their house for dinner? As soon as he saw them he immediately ran away. He said he just forgot it. The guest said it's no big deal. They know Hao has a lot of lessons. Hao forgot the dad is getting married again. This is Zhang Yam and her daughter Zhang Qianqin. In a few days we'll be living together. Chen, your skills are getting better and better. Preparing for our arrival. After dinner, Hao went to his room, lay down on the bed, and said he was tired. And finally this day is over. Wearing cute clothes, cute makeup, also all day pestering. I'm really awake. Or have I moved into a feminist world? My father and brother have become feminine. Eventually that's waiting for me too. Will I be a wife too? They say men still have connections. He freaked out and said there's no way I'm going to be abroad. I have to find a way back, and threw a teddy bear at the door. At that moment, his sister walked into his room and the teddy bear hit her. She walked up to Hao and hugged him and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't expect you missed me." Hao blushed with embarrassment. Sister Kin thought he was sick because his face was red. She wanted to check it, but he said there was nothing wrong with him. Hao went to bed. Suddenly a girl's shadow appeared in his room. It woke him up. He just woke up and didn't understand who it was and why so late. A girl came up to him. Hao exclaimed, "Who are you?" She said to him, "Why, don't you remember me?" After all, she was the one who brought him here. He remembered looking at the red moon and said he remembered her. It was her. "Who are you? Why did you bring me into this world?" He answered, "You can call me the god of the blood moon. Didn't you say you didn't have a girlfriend and haven't had one yet? There are so many girls in this world and they all love you. Isn't that good?" Hao said there are no normal people here and asked her to take him back. It was easy for her to do that, but he had to complete a task. What task? He had to become a real man. Then if you become a real man in this feminist world, he would have a chance to take it all back. But if he fails the mission, how will dissolve into this world? Dissolve? You mean become a girl? Yeah, that could happen. I hope you have a good time. And she's gone. But he didn't get to ask the most important question. How does one become a real man here? For a morning Hao thought it was a strange dream, but he saw the red belt and realized that it was definitely not a dream, and he really needs to complete this task. But what does it mean to become a real man in this world? After all, he definitely looks like a girl now. Hao decided to deal with this task later. First he needed to learn about this world. He sat down on the floor and began to study the newspapers. He was very surprised. Was it all true? After all, what had been written was complete nonsense. First of all, there are still ways to grade a man in this world, so girls are more active too. And shivering and goosebumps, weakness, all this is typical of the physiological reaction of guys. How much more does he have to remember? Is there any other way to get home? No, let's put the god of the blood moon aside. There must be a scientific explanation for this. First he must study the strange celestial phenomenon that night. What if it's just a change in the magnetic field? Hao decided not to rely on this strange assignment, but he was not an expert in that field, but he could have hired someone. But who should he look for and what would he tell him? After all, Hao was a high school student with no money in his pocket, but he didn't get upset and decided to get some money first. Out of the room he was met again by his sister. She said, Hao, good morning. Hurry up and try the breakfast that your sister made." He replied, "Okay, Sister Kin." After breakfast, he went to the dressing room. Standing at the mirror he said he had to admit, despite his feminine features, his face looks quite attractive. Today Hao is going to school for the first time in this world. On the way Lun told him that he applied a new lipstick color today. Does it suit him? It's the hit of the season. He asked Lun to keep his distance. Lun replied, How, what's wrong with you? We used to do this a lot. Hao said, "You see, I happen to have new principles. I want to be a man, and they can't." Lun exclaimed, "What? How can you say that? There's nothing good about it. You can't get married." How, hurry up and go. The girl is staring at them. What? Where is it? Right there behind the pillar was a girl. She was admiring the beauty of the high school students. Hao said, "What do they have to be afraid of? We're two big guys and we're afraid of her? Don't worry, if she dares to come near us, I'll chase her away." What? How, what are you saying? You can't even lift a brick. That's not true. I used to be a good fighter. You wish. Let's go another way. He took Hao by the hand and they ran off in the other direction, breaking away from the girl. They are very tired and sweaty. Lun said that now they have to repaint. As they approached the main gate of the school, Hao was surprised at the size of the school. After all, this is Alliston's business school. It really seems like all the black work in this world is done by girls. Is my family super rich? Am I going to such an expensive school? When you entered the classroom, the first thing Hao saw was a guy asking for help from a girl to help you open the water bottle. What? I'm so weak that I can't open the water bottle either. Hao walked up to them and said, "Freeze. I'll help." He grabbed the bottle and tried to open it, but she couldn't do anything. Maybe it was screwed tight? Or was the pose wrong? He was furious and tried to open the small water bottle. The whole class was watching intently, but in the end he couldn't open it. He silently gave the water bottle to the girl to open it. Hao was ashamed of this, because the girl effortlessly opened the bottle of water. The girls came up to him and began to ask what happened. "Prince Charming wants to open a bottle? Let me help. I'll help unscrew it some more. Don't get in the way." But Lun told them not to pay attention. He hasn't been feeling well lately, so he might express himself strangely. Don't worry, it totally sucks. We should get some exercise. After all, we have to finish a real man's segment walking down the school corridor. All the girls admired him. They were amazed at his beauty, his hands and right skin. His waist was thin, and his legs slender. I can't go on like this. A handsome man is handsome, but I'm too weak. It's time to find a place to train. We have to come. But first let's look how found Thai boxing training for beginners. It didn't look bad, but we need to check. But physical training will not be enough. We also need to work on mental training. We have to make a reminder. Suddenly a girl came up to him. She frightened him. Her name was Huam. Her classmate Hao said to her, "Why do you come silently, like a ghost?" "It's not silent, it's you." Hao was so busy that he didn't hear Hao. "You're not texting some girl you like, right? What are you talking about? And don't lean so close to me. Guys and girls can be that close." But he took Hao's hands and said, "Your hands are so white and soft, and your fingers are so long and beautiful." Hao didn't expect her to behave that way. She said to him, "Hao, you're a little strange today. You weren't like this before. You were making it up." "I've always been like this, Hao. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep. I know an ancient massage technique. Let me help you know." Don Hao was surprised by Hung's strength. Aren't all the girls in this world so strong? At that moment, their English teacher, who was also their homeroom teacher, entered the classroom. Hao opened the book and began to familiarize himself with the study material. As it turned out that he understood everything, because he had graduated from school a long time ago. The content of this book was not difficult for him. The first use in this world found. He thought, "Teacher Ma, look at my confident eyes. Call me to the board soon. Let me show myself." At that moment, the teacher looked up and called his name. Hao thought it was his time to show himself, but the teacher asked him, "Are you not feeling well? Do you have cramps in your lips? Would you like to go to the infirmary?" Hao answered disappointedly that he was fine, and she was just imagining things. Hao's classmates began to discuss what was wrong with our Prince Todded. "He's kind of weird. My perfect image of a prince is not going to be broken." Strange, even though Hao is handsome, just now he looked like a retard. Hao was in a panic and hoped it was all just a dream. After school, Lun went home. He asked Hao if he was okay. He replied that he was fine. He probably just didn't get enough sleep, but in fact Hao was very tired. Walking down the road, a girl approached him and asked Hao how he felt about her throwing a basketball. Past her, others pestered Hao, but he just ignored them. To himself he thought, "What a horrible thing. Going to school is more horrible than going to work. I want to go back." A cute girl came up to him. She wanted to tell him something. She confessed her feelings to him and offered to date him. But Hao said, "But I don't plan to start dating yet. I have to go." Lun told him, "Of all the excellent girls from every class like you, I am so jealous of you." But Hao asked to watch his words and suggested we go to the canteen. Standing in the canteen, Hao wondered why everyone was eating so little. But Lun asked Hao, "Why has he been called his brother lately?" "That sounds strange enough." Lun went up to the cook and asked him to put on a portion of greens and a portion of spinach. "No rice," he told him. "I've been on a diet lately and only eat vegetables all the time." Hao couldn't believe it. Does this world and guys have such small stomachs? He decided to check it out and ordered the biggest portion of stew, more meat, and a portion of rice. Lun was surprised and said to him, How, so you will get fat quickly?" Hao answered him that guys have to eat a lot, otherwise how can you grow? Classmates didn't believe it. Did Hao seriously decide to eat it all? After all, taco meat is fatty and disgusting, even though it looks quite appetizing. Liu Feng came up to Hao and said to him, "Why do you eat so much? Only immigrant workers eat like that." Hao asked him, "Who is he anyway?" Liu Feng replied, "Are you kidding me? A few days ago we went to self-training class together. We haven't seen each other for 2 days, but you seem to have gained weight. Despite our popularity, we have to watch our figure, and you are so fat today." Hao couldn't stand it and answered him, "You must have problems with your aist. You need to get them fixed. And also, why do you look down on migrant workers? If it weren't for the immigrant uncles, no, immigrant aunts worked tirelessly to build our country. But would you lead such a carefree life now?" Liu Feng cried and said that he only told him for his own good, and that he didn't expect you to say that to Med. The classmates didn't understand what was going on. Why was Liu Feng crying? Could it be that Hao made him cry? They didn't expect Hao to be so tough, and his image of God shattered. Liu Feng saw that all the girls were on his side, and smiled miserably. Suddenly a girl came up to them and said, "How much Hao eats is his own business, and who said you can't eat much? This is discrimination and prejudice." She walked up to Hao and asked him, "Are you hungry today? Here, have some more. I have a lot." Hao thought in surprise, "My goodness, another hot dye. He told Liu Feng, if you have something to say, go ahead and speak quickly, and if it seems that the old man eats a lot, shut up. Lun exclaimed in shock. How can Hao called himself an old man, because it is rude and does not fit his ID limit. Zhao Ying said. How really does look like a wild kitten. So attractive. Liu Feng got angry and turned around saying that people don't understand that, and they leave. Other girls left with him and asked Liu Feng not to be sad. Zhao Ying must have been fascinated by his looks, so she fell in love. He replied that he didn't care, and sooner or later she would see Hao's true face. He is rude and mean. Sitting at the table, Zhao Ying wished Hao a good appetite and advised him to eat his soup first. Hao asked Lun who it was. She said, it's Zhao Ying from the parallel class and has been courting you for a long time. Zhao Ying is the leader of the 11G class basketball team, cultured and courting. Really excellent. Zhao Ying asked Lun how you liked the League of Heroes game she advised him last time. He replied that he tried it, but the game is very difficult. It's hard for a guy to play it after all. Hao asked them, League of Heroes? Are you talking about that game where you have to go through a 5x5 tower? Lun replied, yes. Have you played it too? And last time you said you weren't interested in girls. Gamist Hao didn't think there was a League of Heroes game in this world, but it seems like all the players are girls. Zhao Ying said that even though there are no guys among the professional players, but they still play, and asked Hao if he liked the game. He said it was okay and it was okay to play. He said he was full and invited Lun to go to class with him. Zhao Ying sighed disappointedly, wondering when Hao would pay attention to her coming to class. Hao began to think about Zhao Ying's words. She said that there are no guys in the ranking of the best players, then the best players among the guys, Warlord and Machine Gun in this world. I'll have to find time to watch the game broadcast sometime. After all, what does it mean to be a real man in this world? Hao noticed a girl sitting by the window and asked Lun, who was this lonely girl? Her name was Hua, a recent transfer student. Hao said she was very pretty. He noticed that Lun was looking at her suspiciously. He told him, do you really like her? Hao took Lun by the arm and dragged him to her, and said he should show initiative. But Lun resisted and said guys should behave more restrained. Hao said it was like that before. Today a guy said a guy did. Besides, you wouldn't leave a new classmate alone, would you? Hao and Lun went up to her and introduced themselves. She greeted them and said her name was Mingyu Hewitt. He noticed of all the girls in the world were attracted to him, but she was so distant. He had never seen anyone like her. Lun hesitantly greeted her and told him that they should leave soon because she did not want to talk to them. Hao asked her, do you not want to talk to us? He replied surprised, no, she just doesn't know what to say to them. He told his brother that she seemed to just have a little social disorder. He held out his hand to her and said to her, do you want to talk to people? If you do, let's be friends. I'll help you. She took his hand and said, Akade, real man wouldn't leave a helpless girl alone. It seems I have finally come close to accomplishing my mission. Hao was approached by his roommate and said, the most handsome guy in school gets along with the transfer student. He immediately thought of a good idea. He decided to befriend this chatterbox girl with the transferred girl. This way she will quickly get used to become a sociable girl. He asked Yuan to be friends with Hua. She couldn't refuse him and agreed to show her strengths in communication. After school, Hao went home. He decided to take the path of a real man and listened only to rock. At that time his half-sister Qian Qin knocked at his door. She came into his room and asked what he was doing. He said he was listening to music. She wanted to hear what Hao was listening to, and she liked the genre of his music. She said he was indeed different from all men. Lying on the bed with her, he didn't know what to do. But at that time a silhouette of some girl appeared before his eyes, and he stopped. The stepsister got scared and asked if he was all right. Why had he gone so pale? He said he was anemic and would get better if he just rested. She hugged him and said men are so fragile and asked how to take care of his health. He asked her, I am thinking of getting a haircut. Do you think it is worth it? Yes, my sister will always support Yao. Hao decided to change his image, so he went to a hairdresser's. He was greeted by the receptionist and told him, you are so beautiful, I will find you the best master. He replied that he wasn't particularly delicate. One of the stylists said he could sit here. She asked him what was the best way to cut his hair. He said that in the style of the court, cut it as you can. You don't have to try too hard to make it beautiful. It was the first time she had heard such strange wishes. She thought how to cut his hair and seemed to understand him. If he said it wasn't pretty, then it should be the other way around. After a while he cut his hair. He looked adorable. Hao liked the haircut too. He asked how much he owed her. She said no money. Let me use your photo to promote their barbershop. He said no and opted to pay it. She gave him her card and said come to me next time. maybe he would have some other requests, and she would serve him well. He thought, oh damn celebrity, he's not used to this kind of treatment. Yet when he got home he looked in the mirror and said, this haircut didn't give me masculinity, but he looked very handsome. He changed his haircut. Now it's time to be reborn as a completely new man in this world. He went over to the closet. What is suitable in the closet? He was upset. All these clothes were women's colors. You must change all your clothes. After a while Dad called How to help him pack. He went downstairs and was shocked to see his son. His father asked him, what's wrong with his hair? Why was his hair so short? What hairdresser had disfigured it so? He promised to find them and tell them everything. How asked his father to calm down because it was his decision. His long hair made him too hot. Dad got angry, took his slipper in his hands and ran after his son. He was running away from him, but at that moment his stepsister walked into the room, and he ran into her. She told Dad to calm down, because the excitement is bad for health, and asked what happened. Daddy said that he cut his hair short without asking permission, and that he would never get married that way. Hao looked up and stared into her eyes. Kian Kin told Daddy that Hao looks fine. The haircut looks quality, and he warned her, so he has nothing to worry about. Daddy said she was spoiling him, and he should realize his mistake. After that he went to the kitchen to cook. Hao thanked Kiankin for saving him from his furious father. She said she was his sister, and should take care of him. She also offered to go to her room as she had something for him. When she entered the room, she said that when we moved in I was very busy, and I didn't have time to prepare a present for you. And now she will give him a present. She opened the box, and there were 2 crystals and asked him if he liked them. Hao answered, they are very expensive. Kian Kin said, whatever you want, her sister will buy it for Yao. He was shocked by such a gift, and thought maybe he should buy a gift for his sister. After all, her gift is certainly not cheap, so it is worth it to return them, because he had no money, and the last money went to the hairdresser. Hao thought that maybe he should write a novel. He should think of a story first. The fee for the manuscript would be paid every day, so he could save money. It's hard to write about a powerful man, and a great warrior, a city woman. It seems so. Will do. I'll try that. Or maybe I should combine my world with its peculiarities and jokes in the story. In that case I'll call the novel A Real Girl in a Patriarchal World. And so being in school, he got a notification on his phone that said, congratulations. Your novel A Real Girl in a Patriarchal World has passed the registration for signing the contract. Please contact the editor at this number. Hao was glad, because the check went quickly. At this rate he will be able to get paid for daily chapter updates. A said Hao, I seem to have things worked out, but no matter what world, money is required everywhere. Okay, never mind, I just have to celebrate this. Now I'll get myself an ice cream for 1 yuan. I can afford it. Approaching this store Hao stopped, for it seemed very familiar to him. And he remembered that when he first went to school, in a past life, he was protected by Amei. She was in high school, she was so fragile, yet she stubbornly defended Hao's sister Amei. This is Uncle Jin's daughter from the store next door. Hao began to recall a dialogue with her. Jiang Hao, we live so close to each other. I want to invite you to tea. At that moment Hao thought to himself, this must be the first feeling of love. After that he would often visit this store until one day, Hao confessed his feelings to Amita May. I like you. But she said, I'm sorry Hao, but I like muscular guys and you're too skinny. At that moment, Hao gave up on that feeling. And from that day on, he started pumping his muscles like crazy to become a muscular man who could protect Amei. But in this world it's different. This time she's bound to say yes. Walking into the store, he heard the dialogue, forever you're stuck at home instead of working hard. And how are you going to make money to bring home a man? Daddy, stop blowing my mind. I'm actually doing physical labor. Hao didn't understand who was swearing like that. Walking into the store, he thought Amei hadn't changed a bit, but as soon as she came out, he fell over in surprise. Amei was a pumped-up, muscular girl. She walked up to Hao and said, wow, you got a haircut, it really suits you. You're so handsome. Do you have something to do with me? He cried from what he saw. His first love had changed beyond recognition. She now looked like a big, pumped-up man. Hao sat down in his chair. Amei told him they hadn't seen each other in a while. Would he like some watermelon or something to drink? Don't be so shy. If you want something to eat, say so right away. He saw her muscles and said he didn't want anything. She put her hand on his shoulder, and the chair he was sitting on broke from her strength. Hao said he had to go, glad to talk. When he got home he hated this world. Such a fragile girl turned into a man. Need to sign up for Thai boxing. Buy a gift Kian Kin. So also deal with clothes. Why do you need money everywhere at this rate? The mystery of the bloody moon is impossible to get to. Suddenly in Kian Kin said to him, how are you back? What are you talking about there? He didn't know his stepsister was home. Going into her room, he saw her practicing yoga. She said, "I'm already so tired of girls working out at the gym," and thought about the sports that men do. Kankin took his hand and suggested we do yoga together. After all, you shouldn't be too weak of a guy either. What if they start bullying you at school? Hao took these words as an insult. Am I weak in her eyes? He took her hand and said, "Sister, maybe in that case you try to arm wrestle with me?" Okay, the terms were that the loser would owe one wish to the winner. It's not just arm wrestling, it's the dignity of a man. Hao was surprised by the strength of his sister. In his past life, men went through fire and water for the survival and maintenance of the family. And here the opponent was a beautiful girl. Hao could not so easily lose to her. Praised him. He lasted long enough, not a bad result, but at this time, Hao's arm was already hurting badly. He wanted to give up already, but he still had the willpower that made him hold on. Kiankan said, "Okay, that's enough, or you could still hurt yourself," and put his arm down, thus defeating him. "Brother, you must be tired. You've worked so hard. Your arm doesn't hurt." "I'm fine, sis. I lost to you. So what's your wish?" "I don't want anything. I just want to feel my head on my knees." "Stay head on your knees?" "Of course, what else would you expect her to do?" "No problem." Suddenly she put her head on Hao's lap and said, "Hey, just like I thought. Your lap is super comfortable. I feel like I'm in heaven." He thought, "Are you the one who's going to lie on my lap?" She asked him if she could lie there a little longer. Hao answered that he could. "Lie as long as you want. You can lie there forever." Ariel man doesn't refuse anything. Some time passes. Hao sits at his computer. Suddenly he receives a message on his phone from Yuan. They are going with Lun and Yuhua to go to the park. Very soon he will come to Lun, so be ready. After 10 minutes, Lun came to Hao's house with his little sister. He came out of the house, and his little sister hugged him. But Hao didn't know who it was and asked Lun, "Who was it?" Her name was Lin Lim. She is 6 years old. She is Lun's younger sister. Hao suggested they go to his house. He didn't want to go to the amusement park. He thought it would be boring there. But Lun said it wasn't boring there because a new attraction had just opened there, a ghost team. And shouldn't they help Ming Yuhua with her fear of society? Hao agreed, but asked him to wait as he needed to change. And a real man doesn't back down on his words of help. He changed his clothes, and they went to the park where Huan and Ming Yuhua were already waiting for them. Huan said, "Hao, you are rarely seen in such clothes, so also with a new hairstyle, not only handsome, but also with a sense of style is in order." Yuhua also said that Hao is very handsome today. He praised her and said that she is good and already talking to people. "Okay, let's go to the ghost room already." They came to the house. It was scary and very gloomy. Lun got scared and said he was very scared. Maybe they should go back to the merry-go-round or the Ferris wheel. Hao replied, "Is it possible to have fun on such rides?" But no one supported him, and they decided to go to the ghost room. Calling him a coward, they decided to split into groups. Yuhua and Hao would go together and Lun, Huam and Lin would go the other way. They were girls and had to take care of the boys, but Lin wanted to go with Hao and made a scandal. But Hao told her to go with her brother because she was the bravest and Lun was the most timid, so they shouldn't worry about him because he would go with Yu Huat. The group of 3 went first, followed by Hao and Yu Hua. When they entered the house, they heard Huam shouting. Hao thought, could she be a coward too? After 10 minutes of wandering around the big house, Hao noticed that Yu Hua had disappeared. She couldn't have just disappeared. Hao walked around the house looking for her. Suddenly he heard a sound from a closet. He opened it, and there was Yu Hua sitting there. She said she just got lost and decided to hide. Third Hao held out his hand to her and said that she had nothing to fear when he was near. She took his hand and was embarrassed, for he was the first to be so kind to her. After a while the quest was over. It was Lun who suffered the most. He screamed the loudest and promised not to go back there again. Hao asked Yu Hua if she liked the quest. She was silent for a long time and suddenly fell unconscious on Hao. They didn't know what to do. In a panic they started to call an ambulance, but Hao asked them not to panic. Maybe she just had a cold and suggested putting her on a bench. When they got to the bench, Lun said she needed CPR, but Hao said she was fine and told them to go to the store to get water and buy some sweets. While he sat with her and tried to bring her to consciousness, he sat down next to her and put her head on his lap and took her earlobe and started massaging it. Suddenly she woke up and looked into Hao's eyes and asked him why he was pinching her ears. Hao replied that you lost consciousness, and so he tried to make her wake up. She replied that she was very scared, but now so calm. Holding Hao's hand, he replied that they wouldn't go to the ghost room anymore, and asked if she was in any pain. Yu Hua said she was fine and just wanted to sleep. and asked him not to leave. Hao flatteredly replied okay. He thought, I have met the calmest and most gentle girl in this world. It's just her character is a little strange. 10 minutes later everyone else came over. They bought her some water and asked if she was okay. She answered that she was fine. Huang suggested we go on having fun, but Hao said that enough for today, and it would be worth it to walk Yuhua home. She doesn't mind, right? She took his hand and said, Hao, let's go together. He agreed. Huang and everyone else didn't understand what was going on between them. They went to walk her home. As it turned out, she lived quite far away. They'd asked her how she was getting to school, if she was comfortable, but she just kept quiet the rest of the way. When they got to her house, they were surprised. The house was just huge and beautiful. They were met by the staff of the house near the entrance. The butler said to her mistress, how could you sneak off to have fun? The master instructed you not to go so far away. It would make him angry. The friends were shocked. It turns out Yuhua is a rich girl who lives in a rich mansion. The butler invited them in and apologized for their humble hospitality, for they are friends of the latter. The table was laid out for them, and they were served with yunmu tea, which they had brought just today, brewed with spring water and sweets, prepared by their chef. Then the butler and Yuhua went to the second floor. As madam needed to change, they were left alone and were surprised that such a quiet and reserved girl had a personal servant and lived in a rich house. Hao thought, well, no way. I also did not expect that the new girl I help, a representative of the golden youth. At this time the butler said to her, madam, you went to such a distant place, and also did not take a bodyguard. If the Lord knows, he will worry. Please do not do so again. She asked him if his parents had returned home. He replied that the master is back, but the mistress is still busy. Yuhua said, so why hasn't the father called her back? The butler said that the master and mistress were busy overseas. They had prepared a gift for her and were on their way back. It was a model tank that she liked. 10 minutes later she went back down to her friends. They were surprised at how beautiful she looked. Hao asked her, what's wrong with you? She replied, Daddy didn't call me again, he said. And what does that mean? She took his hand and said she wanted to give him something, and they went to her room. As they entered it, Hao was surprised as the room was very empty. He asked her, you seemed sad after coming home. You said Daddy didn't call you. Does he treat you badly? Daddy loves me very much, but he's always busy. Mom's always busy too. I'm usually alone, and they're always busy with their own things. Mom is the mayor of the city, so she usually doesn't come home. And Dad is always on business trips. He makes a lot of money. The manager says they love me. He put his hand on her head and said if she gets lonely, you can call me, and I'll call Huang, Lin and Lun, because they are her friends. At this point she took him by the hand and told him to follow her. They went into a collection room where guns and tank models were hanging. She took one of her favorite weapons and gave it to Hao, but he could not accept such a gift, because if he came home with weapons his father would kill him. Hao told her that they could be friends without that thing. She hugged him gently and asked him to stay and be with her for life, and never leave her. After a while they were about to go home. Afterwards they said we'll have more fun next time. When they got home, Hao decided to categorically change his clothing style. He opened his closet and threw out all the clothes, and told Lun that tomorrow they were going to the mall to buy new clothes. As these clothes didn't fit them the next day, they went to the mall and took a long time to choose clothes, but they still matched their style. After shopping they got very hungry and went to a McDonald's. While ordering he noticed that someone was watching the nickname. All girls like Hao and Lun were dressed, because before them no one dressed like that. Hao said he was too handsome, and decided to wear a cap, so he wouldn't stand out, but it was too late. Hao's photo spread all over the internet. All the girls in town were fascinated by Hao's beauty. They actively discussed him, and commented on the photo that a girl posted. She took a discreet photo under this photo, left a comment. Sister Lunya. She wrote that they went to the amusement park together. When Hao got home, he sat down on a chair and decided to take a rest. Suddenly Lun called him, and told him that you are a celebrity. One of the girls in a McDonald's took your picture, and this photo spread all over social networks. Hao did not understand how one photo could make him famous. He read the comments, and did not understand how this could happen. But he thought that after a few days all will calm down, and everything will go back to normal. And since he had nothing to do for the day, he decided to watch the cybersport streams. He thought, it seems except for broadcasts and women's games nothing much has changed. It's okay if I play them. He had enough ability to start earning from streams. At this time, Kiankin's sister came home. He said he had worked so hard at the research institute that he didn't even know he was an internet star. Suddenly she lay down on him and started questioning, had no one molested him? He replied that she didn't have to worry because he could stand up for himself, but she said that Hao was too naive. Women are much more dangerous than he thinks, and Dad only has one son. And what would happen if anything happened to the only son? He promised to tell her if girls hit on him or if he goes out at that moment. She took out her phone. How noticed she had his picture on her screen. Sabbath the next day, How went to school. On his way he saw that all the girls in town were looking for him. He tried to hide from them and went around through bushes and trees. He got a call from Lun and said he'd better not show up at school today because the girls knew he was in this school. How listened to him, and he decided not to go to school and asked his sister for help to get him out of school and explain everything to his father. She agreed to help him. When he came back home, he decided to do some streaming as he had nothing else to do. But before that he decided to practice a little. The game in this world hasn't changed much, except that the characters have become girls. After a bit of practice, he realized that his skill is at a high level, and in the evening he can start the stream after dinner. He went to his room, and Kin looked at him with a puzzled look. After a while, he started the stream and started playing. There was a girl cyber athlete in the team against him, but he easily beat her. She couldn't believe it. She thought it was a girl playing under the boy's id, and also she suspected him of cheating. Many girls were interested in the stream, and the number of viewers began to grow, but no one believed it was a boy playing. But How turned on the microphone and proved that he was a boy, and they were surprised by his pleasant voice. He pointed the camera with the keyboard to prove that he did not use cheats. All viewers were confused. His hands were very beautiful. At that time a girl from one of the organizations got interested in him. She thought if they sign a contract with him, they'll make money with a shovel. At 10 p.m. How finished the stream, but the girls asked him not to turn off the stream and asked him to show them his face. But How did not want this, so he said goodbye to the audience and said that tomorrow at 8 p.m. will be another stream. And then How went to bed. The next day How met up with Lun and asked him how the school was doing. Were the crowds still waiting for him? Lun said that today it's not as crowded as it seemed because yesterday you weren't there, so they didn't come today. I heard Lun ask him what he was doing these 2 days. How said he tried to stream, and it came out pretty cool. Lun was ecstatic and shouted out to the whole cafe. And this one girl heard unexpectedly. Cow got a message on his phone saying that yesterday he streamed and achieved the best results. He was asked to contact the manager to sign a contract. Lun supported him and demanded that How sign a contract because he is destined to be popular. When he becomes a star and makes lots of money, you can buy whatever you want. How said that he is just a high school student, and if blogging affects his studies, he will be killed at home. He is not known for anything, and will only become more popular if he becomes too popular. How was interested in this idea, and decided to give it a try. After this conversation they went home. Suddenly How noticed that someone is following them, but he did not want to scare Lun, and told him that he still have to go to the supermarket, so he will go alone. How was alone, and he stopped and said, "Hey you two, come out." Already a girl came out to him. She said he looked just like the picture she took and asked him if his sister was taking good care of him. How didn't understand who she was. Her friend replied How can't know her, since it is Liu who owns several of the nearby streets. How replied that he didn't know her and told them to get out of here. The helper was shocked at his insolence and said, "How dare you talk like that?" But at that moment Liu hit her and told her that you can't be so rude to such a handsome boy. Liu wanted to kidnap him and have How become her husband.